Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I've got a brand new Simon Says Stamp exclusive stamp set for Christmas, and this is done in conjunction with Art Impressions. And we're going to be making a vintage postcard using this stamp set today. So let's go ahead and get started. For cardstock today, we're going to be using the Distress Kraft Heavystock from the Tim Holtz collection. And I'm going to cut this down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I'm using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer to do that. And off camera, I'll stamp the sentiment postcard using a stamp that I have in my collection. But down below, I will list for you all the products that are available with these postage and postcard stamps. So just check the links down below or also on my blog. So what I'm going to do here is draw the lines in on the postcard, and I'm using my black Pitt Artist pen. This is a 0.1 millimeter pen, and I'm just drawing a line right down the center and then 3 little lines here off to the right. And I'm using my T-square to make sure those are nice and straight. So I'm really excited to show you this brand new Simon Says Stamp exclusive stamp set. This is done in conjunction with Art Impressions, and we're going to be using those 3 little ladies there today and one of those sentiments. And this set is called Fab-yule-ous Friends. And just a little side note, this is a limited edition set, so if you are interested in it, you probably want to grab it right away. Supplies are limited, and once it's sold out, that's it. It won't be available again. So I have it listed and linked down below and also on my blog if you are interested. So I've inked up my stamp using the Versafine Onyx black ink, and I'm using that Stampendable stamp press to press that out. I'm going to leave this in my Mini Misty for a second here while we go ahead and stamp this cute little sentiment that says, "Dear Santa, I can explain." I just think that is so cute. I'm going to stamp this in a really pretty red color. This is from the Wendy Vecchi collection, and this is called Red Geranium. So now that we have that stamped, let's grab some watercolor pencils. These are the brand new Distress watercolor pencils from the Tim Holtz collection. And it's got the name right on the pencil. Let me show you the 3 sets that are available. And on the back, it tells you exactly which color pencils you get in each of the sets. And so before you get started, you should go ahead and sharpen all of your pencils. Now I'm just using a pencil sharpener that I have, but Tim Holtz has recommended the Prismacolor sharpener, and that will contain all of those little shards that come off your pencil. So I'm probably going to invest in that myself. It is on my wish list now. So I will link that and list that down below for you. Now you could use a water brush to do your blending. I'm going to use my Zig Clean Color Real Brush pen. This is a blender pen. Since we're doing some watercoloring and that is a water-based pen, I can use these 2 products together. And I will be listing all the pencil colors I'm using in that upper left-hand corner as we go along. So I started here with the barn door. And again, you could use a water brush here, but I find it a little harder to do the watercoloring with the brush. Just personally, I find that a little bit more difficult. With the blender pen, I feel I get just the right amount of fluid, and I know it's really designed to be used with your Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, but I thought I'd give it a try to use it in this way, and it seemed to work out really well. If you don't feel comfortable with that, go ahead and use your water brush, but I like to use products in the way that works best for me. So I did try it off camera. I tried it with water, and I just didn't feel like it was blending the way that I wanted it to. So again, it may be a little untraditional to use the watercolor pencils in this way, but it works well for me. So do whatever you feel most comfortable with. So I'm just placing some color down on the Kraft cardstock. So we're coloring directly onto the Kraft cardstock. And I wanted to do that because I want this postcard to have a bit of a vintage look. So our highlighting will just be that Kraft cardstock that's behind our images. So here I've switched to the Picket fence, which is a nice bright white. I'm adding that to all the trim on her little Santa suit. And I'll add it to the hat and to her shoes as well. And then I'll quickly blend that out using that blender pen. Now I did want to add a little bit of a shadow to the trim work on her outfit, so I'm going to switch over to a darker pencil, and I'll grab that hickory smoke and we'll add some shadows here and there. So I'm just adding it right around the edges and then just going back with that blender pen and pulling that color in. So let's switch to the vintage photo, and I'm going to start that with that color in her hair. I'll kind of add some little bit of color down at the bottom, and then I'm bringing in the mustard seed for the highlights on her hair. I'll just add those two colors at the same time, and then I'll blend those together. Going back to that mustard seed, I'm going to do the little bells on her hat and her shoes. I'll do that little star and a few of the little ornaments. Now let's switch to the salvage patina to do the front of her outfit. And again here, when I'm blending on the Kraft cardstock, it is going to give the colors a bit more of a muted look. So if you want them to be brighter, you can color onto your white cardstock. Use your watercolor paper, or I would probably use the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And I also wanted to show you that you can pick up the color right off your pencil as well. So just take your blender pen and grab the color right off the pencil and then do your blending that way. That sometimes gives you a little bit more control. And here we'll add a little bit of that Mermaid Lagoon for a little bit more shadowing. And then let's go to the Wild Honey to do this little lady's hair. And I'm adding a little vintage photo to that for some shadowing. I'm really hoping you can see how simple these Distress watercolor pencils are to use. I'm really having no trouble at all. Again, using that blender pen is easier for me. So it's going easily, and I like the look. I really like the look on this Kraft color cardstock. And I know that Tim Holtz put a lot of time and energy into these pencils, specifically matched the line that he already has. So these will match up perfectly with your Distress Oxide sprays, your Oxide ink pads, everything in pretty much in the Distress line, the crayons and all of those good products. So we can only hope and keep our fingers crossed that he comes out with some new sets in the near future. So I'm switching over to Crushed Olive and Rustic Wilderness to do the rest of her outfits. I'll alternate those two colors on her tights and on her shirt as well. And you'll see later on, I'm going to come in with the hickory smoke and just add some shadowing. I want to, again, give this more of a vintage look. So I'm going to add some of that hickory smoke, that gray color, to do some additional shadowing once I'm done with all of the coloring here. And I'll show you that in just a second. So for the Christmas tree, I'm switching over to the Twisted Citron. And I'll just color it in this one color. But keep in mind, we're going to be adding some shadowing all around the edges of this postcard. We're going to be using some vintage photo Distress Oxide ink to add a little bit of shadowing to give it that vintage look. I'll quickly grab that picket fence and do these little packages. And I'm following along with basically with the colors on the packaging. So Art Impressions does a really great job of giving you good ideas for your colors and for where your shadowing should go. So you can always follow along with the colors that have already been included on the packaging. So now I've got picked raspberry and tattered rose, and I'm using those two colors to do their face. So with that tattered rose, I'm going to do the skin color, and with the picked raspberry, I'm going to do the cheeks. If you get too much color on, as you can see there, I had a little too much color on her cheeks. So I'm just taking that blender pen and pulling some of that color off, scribbling it onto my scrap paper, and you can pull off as much color as you need to, just like you would do with your Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And here I'm going back to the technique where I'm going to pull some color right off the pencil. So I'm just using the blender pen, picking that color right up off the pencil and adding it. And that's going to give me a little more control over shadowing some of these images. So you can see here I'm adding some shadows onto her little dress. I just didn't think it had enough color there, so I'm going to do the same thing on the little crown. And then here's where I'm adding that hickory smoke. I talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm going to target certain areas, add some more shadowing, and for some of these images, I'm just going to darken them up a little bit. And this is a really easy way to pick up the color. Again, you have a little bit more control. And I'm adding some shadows here on her tights. And then on this little booklet. And so I'll continue to do that. Now I'm going back to that barn door just to do those little bows on her shoes. Or on her gift box shoes, I guess. So here's where I'm grabbing that Walnut Stain Distress Oxide ink, and we're going to go all around the edges of this postcard. And I'm going to go right over the images as well. So you didn't have to be too fussy down here at the bottom with your shadowing, because we're going to go right over that with a little bit of color. So I'm going to use the worn wallpaper scraps from the Tim Holtz Idea-ology collection, and we're going to be using that striped paper there. But let's grab a couple more things from this collection. Let me just show you what's in here. You get these really nice borders, and this paper has a wallpaper texture to it. So it's got a little bit of texture there, and you get all these beautiful flowers and the little bells and some nice greenery. And then let me show you this paper a little bit closer here. Hopefully you can see some of that wallpaper texture that it has. And you get some beautiful patterns. There's also a green stripe. And then from that paper there, I'm going to grab that one. We're going to use some of those little candies. And then from this one, we're going to cut out one of those little poinsettias. So I'm going to set those aside. So you can see this whole collection has a beautiful vintage look to it. So it's going to go perfectly with our little postcard. So I want to create that postage looking stripe around the edges. So we're going to cut this down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And that'll be the size of a standard A2 size card. Now I'm not making a card out of this, I'm just going to keep this as a postcard. So I'm going to back that paper with a piece of that Kraft cardstock that we looked at earlier, and that is also cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'll just glue these two together using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. And so I'm just going to sign the back of this. I may stamp another sentiment on it later on. And I will add a little bit of that walnut stain around the edges of the back of the postcard and then around the edges here on the front. I don't want to come in too far. Just going to add a little bit of color there and then take away any white around the edges. So here's where I'm going to cut out a few little items here. I'll cut out some of those little candies and then one of those small poinsettias. I'm going to edge those to take away that white edge. And now I wanted to show you from this collection here, and this is the easiest way to show you everything that's in this collection. This is from the Tim Holtz Idea-ology, and this is called the Christmas Ephemera. So I'm going to grab those little postage stamps from this collection and that little sentiment that says special delivery. And I just use my detail scissors to cut those out. I'll glue my postcard right onto this striped paper, and then we can add our little embellishments. So kind of dig through that and see what else you might find. I'm just going to glue 3 of the little candies down here at the bottom. Now I also want to do the cancellation on that postage. So you can either use your black Pitt Artist pen, or I have a little stamp I use, and again I'll link those postage and postcard stamps down below for you. I think there were 3 different ones that I found that would be really perfect for this. I happen to have one in my collection, so that's what I used. Now that stamp set also had these little musical notes. So I decided to put a few of those right at the top of the postcard. I'm going back to that Versafine Onyx black ink to do my stamping. And then I've got my Wink of Stella glitter pen. This is just a clear glitter pen, and I'm going to add some sparkle here and there. I'll add it to all of her fur trim. That'll just make that pop out a little bit better. Just kind of dab that on because remember you're working with watercolor pencil here, so you don't want to move around all that shadowing that you've already done. So when I'm going over the images, I just kind of dab on that glitter pen. And then I'm adding some to the candy and those little musical notes. Now I've got my white gel pen, and I'm going to add a few highlights just to make everything pop out a little bit more. So let's take a closer look at the finished postcard. And I just think these little ladies are so cute. So if you are interested in this, make sure you grab this set right away. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.